My name is Randolph Hurst. I'm a resident of Slate Hill. I'm with Sierra Club, ProtectOrangeCounty.org, and a variety of other environmental organizations. Sierra Club and these other groups are local citizens groups that have come together to advocate against the costly and unnecessary 820 megawatt CPV power plant, and against the unnecessary pollution and net increase in greenhouse gas emissions that will result from the methane that CPV will burn. Public health, air quality, cost of living, and property values are all placed at risk by the operation of this power plant and by the companion gas pipeline infrastructure that will deliver radioactive radon-rich fracked shale gas to fuel CPV. I don't have much time, so I'm going to just try to highlight some of the points. I will be presenting a lengthy, detailed testimony as well, along with my colleague, Jürgen Weckley of the Sierra Club Atlantic Chapter. As identified in the New York State ISO Power Trend 2013 report and supported by the New York State Energy Plan, there is, and as other folks have noted tonight, there is no current or anticipated shortage of electrical power supply here in New York. And we also know that there is no anticipated energy shortage through to the year 2020 and beyond. The immediate energy problem in New York State is the critical imbalance of power supply and demand between regions within the state that deprives customers within our region of lower-priced electricity. The surplus low-cost upstate electricity cannot be delivered for sale to the high-cost market south of Orange County due to constraints in the aging transmission system. Construction of CPV will only increase electricity costs for all ratepayers and exacerbate the existing regional imbalance. To attract and create jobs in Orange County, we must lower energy costs, not raise them. The planned New York State Energy Highway Blueprint Initiative is implementing transmission upgrades as we speak that will remedy the present delivery congestion, create utility-scale efficiencies, and facilitate the needed transfer of low-cost upstate electricity into our region. Since the demand for electricity for power plants has declined, CPV will only succeed at the expense of existing power plants such as the Athens Generating Plant and compete with proposed production from other proposals such as the repurposing of Roasted and Bowline and the new construction of the Cricket Valley Energy Center in Dutchess County, whose fiscal viability will be negatively impacted by CPV. New transmission demands are being placed on the Marcy South power line by upstate suppliers, which CPV plans to use to carry its electricity to market. CPV may create congestion that does not now exist. It may therefore be required to construct its own power line at its own expense, as is the case with Cricket Valley in Dutchess County, and this has not been previously considered. The Commission currently considers many approaches to address the electrical energy needs of New York State. Upgrades to the electric grid, including transmission and substation technology efficiencies. New transmission capacity to access available supply, including hydro, wind, and solar, in addition to conservation and demand-side management strategies. In this study entitled Examining the Feasibility of Converting New York State's All-Purpose Energy Infrastructure to One Using Wind, Water, and Solar, unquote, by Dr. Mark Jacobson et al., they report that the transition to renewable energy will prevent an estimated 4,000 annual pollution-related deaths, a savings of $33 billion, or 3% of the state's gross domestic product in related costs every year, a savings that alone would pay for the power infrastructure needed in short order, and decrease pollution would reduce climate change costs, such as coastal erosion and extreme weather damage, by an estimated $3.2 billion annually. This alternative was omitted from the CPV EIS in Wawayanda, but is central to the PSC issuance of the Certificate of Necessity. Would it be in the public interest to allow the production of electricity, which is not needed, that will also raise pollution emissions above current levels to the detriment of all Orange County residents. I ask you. The next question the PSC must address is whether to approve CPV's petition regarding financing for this proposed plan. We see no evidence. We see only evidence that supports a negative determination. CPV cannot proceed with their proposed power plant without government subsidies, tax waivers from all parties, and ratepayer surcharges as exemplified by the proposed FERC capacity zone that artificially raises electricity prices for all customers. CPV requires a property tax exemption or payment in lieu of taxes agreement from the Orange County Industrial Development Agency and the town of Wawayanda to avoid county and local tax obligations to the detriment of local taxpayers. The OCIDA is also committed to a property purchase lease buyback deal, which accommodates reduced below market rate interest, sales tax exemption, and other inducements which are necessary to bring this project to fruition. The point is that CPV cannot provide a realistic market-based business plan that demonstrates the demand for the power its new plant will produce. It has presented no evidence of the existing need, only a speculative claim of future need dependent upon government, taxpayer, and ratepayer subsidies, which undermines its fiscal credibility. There is no evidence that any earnings would be sufficient to repay bondholders or public agencies. The recent default and bankruptcy of Dynergy's Dan Scammer and Roaston power plants are instructive about the zero-sum competition between power plants in a market of declining demand. In short, CPV will not serve a public need, has no market, has no purchase contracts, no business plan other than to obtain construction permits and to harvest public subsidies. This does not commend them for PSC financing approval. The next question PSC must decide is, can CPV render safe, adequate, and reliable service and provide just and reasonable rates? We believe that it cannot and will not. The environmental impact statement documents that the proposed power plant will emit approximately 2.2 million tons of greenhouse gases, as other folks have noted. That also includes neurotoxins, hormone disruptors, nitrous oxide, sulfuric acid, mist, volatile organic compounds, and particulate matter, and more into the Orange County atmosphere annually. That pollution has been justified by the purchase of questionable carbon offsets from the state of Pennsylvania. Moreover, the proposed infrastructure, including diesel and ammonia storage tanks, will create unnecessary hazards and threaten the safety, health, and welfare of the people who live nearby. These people fear pipeline and power plant explosion, contamination of the air, water, land, and food their families consume, and much more. A lawsuit has been filed against the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for issuing an air quality permit based on a purchase of questionable pollution credits from Pennsylvania. These credits, however, do not reduce the air pollution caused by CPV, but rather give CPV license to pollute further. Who would believe that the emissions from CPV will not jeopardize the air quality of Wawayanda and all municipalities exposed to the prevailing winds that carry such toxic discharges? Who would choose to maintain their residence or knowingly purchase a home nearby CPV's power plant or establish a business? Who would expose their family, their children to such toxic emissions and dangers? And in view of the cost and controversy surrounding shale gas production, who can guarantee its availability and cost competitiveness with other generating technology? Given this, how can CPV defend the assertion that the proposed plant will render safe, adequate, or reliable service? In view of the foregoing, there can be no justification to afford CPV LLC a lightened regulatory regime. The fact is that this corporation does not offer zero emissions, non-polluting technology. Rather, CPV promises a dependency upon high-risk radioactive Marcellus shale gas and high-volume hydraulic fracturing extraction, transmission, and use. This will jeopardize the air New York residents breathe, our water resources, as well as our agricultural lands of significance and our food supply, which hold the promise of the Mid-Hudson region's economic prosperity and our hope for the future. Further, a discrepancy has emerged regarding the production capacity of this plant. The application identified a capacity of 630 megawatts, whereas a letter dated November 18, 2013, from the applicant's attorney, Nixon Peabody, to the PSC indicated a capacity of 820 megawatts. The reason for this change and the relative impact that the increased capacity will consequently have, especially as it relates to increased greenhouse gas emissions and toxic air pollution, need to be evaluated and should also be included in a supplemental environmental impact statement. We therefore ask the PSC to deny CPV the required certificate of convenience and necessity, deny the approval and financing, and deny approval of lightened regulatory regime at this time. We also ask that the PSC direct CPV to commence a supplemental environmental impact statement proceeding, environmental impact statement proceeding to evaluate the circumstances that have occurred during the EIS process that have since been concluded, especially the impacts of lower prices and increased power supply to be derived from the PSC-initiated, quote, AC transmission upgrade process, unquote, case 13D0488 that is currently underway. Additionally, the legal notice for this February 25th hearing states that the comments must be received by the PSC Secretary by February 26th, a window of less than 24 hours, which is unreasonable as it is uncommon for hearings such as these. It is therefore requested that the deadline for comments be extended for at least 30 days after the conclusion of this public hearing. Finally, we request that PSC suspend these certificate deliberations until all the pending air quality permit litigation has been concluded, and I thank you very much.